He knew that unit. He knew what they'd been through. But the spoiled executives tormenting her had no idea they were about to destroy their own lives. Let's find out how this decorated war hero got her revenge. 3 hours earlier, Rachel Thompson, 34, pushed her cleaning cart through the gleaming corridors of Meridian Financial Tower at 11 p.m. 3 years of night shifts had taught her to keep her head down and her sleeves rolled tight. The raised, angry scars mapping her left arm told a story she wasn't ready to share with anyone. But tonight was different. The executive conference room on the 15th floor buzzed with activity as a group of young hotshots worked late on some million-dollar deal. Rachel had cleaned around them before. They were the worst kind of entitled, the type who saw service workers as invisible furniture. Angela Kurtz, 26, marketing coordinator with perfect manicured nails, spotted Rachel first. "Oh my God, did you see her arm?" she whispered to her colleague Brad, not bothering to lower her voice. "Looks like she got attacked by a wild animal or something." Brad Chen, 28, junior investment banker in his $2,000 suit, smirked as he looked up from his laptop. "Probably some gang violence. You know how those people are." His casual cruelty hung in the air like poison. What they didn't know was that Rachel had been documenting every cruel comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment of workplace harassment for months. And she had a plan that would destroy their careers completely. For 3 years, Rachel had endured the whispers, the stares, the not-so-subtle comments about her appearance. The scars covering her left arm were impossible to hide completely, even with long sleeves. They were deep, jagged, telling a story of survival that these pampered executives could never comprehend. Tonight's harassment was escalating beyond the usual cruel glances. Angela made a show of moving her designer purse away when Rachel approached their table. "I hope whatever she has isn't contagious," she said loudly enough for Rachel to hear. Brad joined in, emboldened by his colleague's cruelty. "Maybe she should find work where she doesn't have to be around normal people, like, I don't know, a morgue." Rachel's posture remained perfectly straight, her movements precise and controlled, something that would have meant everything to someone who knew what to look for. But these spoiled children had never learned to recognize true strength. What none of them noticed was the older man sitting quietly in the corner booth of the adjacent break area. Colonel Joshua Williams, 52, recently retired Marine Corps, was working late as the building's new security consultant. His weathered face betrayed nothing as he watched the scene unfold, but his trained eyes were cataloging details others missed. Rachel's scars told a story that would shock everyone in that building, but the real shock was what she was hiding beneath her left sleeve, just above her elbow. As Rachel methodically cleaned around the executive's workspace, her movements caught Joshua's attention. There was something military in her bearing. The way she swept a room, checked corners, maintained situational awareness even while being humiliated. When Rachel reached up to wipe down a high shelf, her sleeve shifted slightly. For just a moment, Joshua glimpsed something that made his breath catch. The edge of what looked like a military tattoo, partially obscured by scar tissue, but unmistakably familiar. Angela's voice cut through his observation. "Seriously, how do they even hire someone who looks like that? It's unprofessional. We have clients coming through here." Rachel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she continued her work with mechanical precision. To the executives, she looked defeated. To Joshua, she looked like a soldier maintaining composure under fire. Brad was warming up now, encouraged by his audience. "I heard she doesn't even have a high school diploma. probably been cleaning toilets her whole life. Some people just aren't meant for anything better. That's when Joshua saw it clearly. As Rachel turned to empty a trash can, the fluorescent light hit her sleeve at just the right angle. The partial tattoo was visible for maybe 2 seconds, but those 2 seconds changed everything. Joshua couldn't believe what he was seeing, and when you find out what that tattoo really meant, you'll understand why this Marine veteran's hands started shaking. The harassment was reaching a crescendo. Angela had pulled out her phone, not so subtly pointing it at Rachel while she worked. This is going on my Instagram story. Meanwhile, at work, with some scarred cleaning lady, my followers will die. Rachel's movements never faltered, but Joshua could see the tension building in her shoulders. He'd seen that same controlled fury in combat zones, in soldiers who were being pushed past their breaking point but couldn't respond due to rules of engagement. Brad decided to push further. "Hey, Scarface," he called out directly. "Yeah, you. Be more careful around our laptops, okay? You probably can't afford to replace them if you break something." For the first time, Rachel looked directly at her tormentors. Her eyes held something that made Joshua sit up straighter. Not defeat, not fear, but a calculating intelligence that these fools had completely missed. "I'll be careful, sir," Rachel said quietly, her voice carrying undertones that Joshua recognized immediately. It was the tone of someone who'd given orders to much more dangerous people than these corporate parasites. Joshua waited until Rachel had moved to the supply closet down the hall before approaching. His footsteps were silent on the carpeted floor, old habits from 2 decades of military service. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said quietly, his voice carrying the respectful tone reserved for fellow warriors. Rachel turned, immediately noting his bearing, his careful positioning, the way he kept his hands visible. This man was military, no question. "That tattoo on your arm," Joshua said, his voice barely above a whisper. 173rd Airborne. Sky Soldiers." Rachel's entire body went still. After a long moment, she slowly rolled up her sleeve, revealing not just the scars, but the tattoo partially hidden beneath them. The distinctive wings and parachute of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, surrounded by combat ribbons and jump wings that told a story of heroism these executives could never imagine. 2nd Battalion 503rd Infantry Regiment, Rachel said quietly. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Joshua's face went pale. He knew that unit. He knew what they'd been through. Operation Rock Avalanche? Rachel nodded once, sharp and military. "I was Staff Sergeant Rachel Thompson. Lost half my squad in an IED attack while evacuating civilians from Kunar province. The scars weren't from some street fight or accident. They were from pulling her wounded soldiers from a burning Humvee under enemy fire. Those spoiled children have been documenting their own destruction for months," Rachel continued, her voice taking on the edge of someone used to tactical planning. "Every racist comment, every harassment incident, every violation of workplace policy, it's all been recorded." She showed Joshua a small device clipped inside her uniform, a digital recorder that had been capturing everything. "I've been building a case, not just against them, but against the entire company culture that enables this behavior." Joshua felt a surge of fierce pride. This soldier had been conducting a long-term psychological operation right under their noses. "They think they're humiliating some uneducated janitor," Rachel said, a dangerous smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "They have no idea they've been tormenting a decorated combat veteran who spent 3 years learning exactly how to destroy their careers." Rachel pulled out her phone and showed Joshua a folder labeled Evidence Collection, Phase 3. It contained hundreds of hours of audio recordings, video clips, documented incidents, and a comprehensive legal analysis prepared by someone who clearly understood corporate law far better than these executives realized. "I didn't just clean this building for 3 years," Rachel said. "I earned my law degree through the GI Bill while working here. I'm starting at Morrison Klein and Associates next month, the firm that just happens to represent several companies in employment discrimination cases." The executives thought they were torturing some helpless janitor, but they were actually providing evidence to a lawyer who specialized in exactly the kind of harassment they'd been dishing out. "Tomorrow morning, I submit my resignation along with a formal complaint to HR, the EEOC, and the State Attorney General's office. By tomorrow afternoon, their LinkedIn profiles are going to be very, very different." Rachel walked back into the conference room with Joshua following at a respectful distance. The executives were still cackling about their earlier comments, completely oblivious to the storm about to hit. "Excuse me," Rachel said, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who'd commanded troops in combat zones. "I have something to share with you." Angela looked up with annoyance. "We didn't call for a cleaning service right now. Come back later." Rachel placed a thick folder on their conference table. "This is a comprehensive documentation of workplace harassment, discrimination, and hostile work environment violations occurring in this office over the past 36 months. Brad laughed. "What are you talking about? Did you finally learn to read?" "I'm talking about federal employment law violations that carry both civil and criminal penalties. I'm also talking about the fact that I'm a practicing attorney who's been building a case against this company and specifically against each of you." The color drained from Brad's face. In the corner, Colonel Joshua Williams watched with growing satisfaction as 3 years of calculated planning finally came to fruition. Brad laughed nervously. "This is some kind of joke, right?" Rachel pressed play on a small speaker. Their own voices filled the room. Every cruel comment, every racist joke, every moment of harassment they'd thought was private. 3 years of documented evidence played back in high-definition audio. Angela's face went white. You recorded us?" "I documented federal crimes being committed in my workplace," Rachel corrected. "And as of 5 minutes ago, copies of this evidence were simultaneously submitted to your HR department, the EEOC, the State Attorney General, and the legal team at Morrison, Klein, and Associates." Brad's phone started buzzing frantically. Then Angela's. Then the conference room phone. "Your supervisor is probably calling to inform you that you're suspended, pending investigation," Rachel continued with military precision. "The EEOC complaint triggers an automatic federal investigation. The State Attorney General's office has 48 hours to review potential criminal charges." Brad answered his phone, his face going from confusion to terror in seconds. "Mr. Peterson wants to see us immediately," he whispered to Angela. "He said something about a federal investigation and immediate suspension." Angela was frantically scrolling through her social media. "Oh my God, someone posted that recording online. It's already got 3,000 shares." Rachel's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and smiled. That would be the Morrison Klein communications team. They've just released a press statement about taking on a high-profile employment discrimination case. Your names are in it. The conference room door burst open. Mr. Peterson, the building manager, stood there with 2 security guards and someone who was clearly from corporate legal. "Miss Kurtz, Mr. Chen, you're terminated effective immediately," Peterson announced. "Security will escort you out. Do not attempt to access any company systems or contact any clients." Angela was crying now. "This isn't fair! We were just joking around!" Rachel looked at her with the same steady gaze she'd once used to face down insurgents. Staff Sergeant Rachel Thompson, 173rd Airborne Brigade, 3 combat tours, Bronze Star with V device for valor, Purple Heart. I've been called worse things by better people. The room fell into stunned silence. For 3 years, you treated me like I was less than human because of scars I earned pulling my wounded soldiers from a burning vehicle under enemy fire, Rachel continued, her voice carrying the weight of absolute moral authority. You mocked my appearance while I was using my GI Bill benefits to earn a law degree with honors. You assumed I was uneducated while I was building a federal case against systematic workplace discrimination. Joshua stepped forward, his colonel's bearing unmistakable. This soldier earned more courage citations in one deployment than most people earn in a lifetime. She's the kind of person who runs toward danger to save others. The real tragedy, Rachel said, is that if you'd simply treated me with basic human decency, none of this would have happened. I would have finished my degree, moved on to my new job, and you'd never have known what hit you. The real devastation wasn't just losing their jobs. It was what happened to their entire lives. Within hours, the story had exploded across social media. #VeteranJanitor was trending nationally. The audio recordings, combined with Rachel's military service record, created a perfect storm of public outrage. Morrison Klein and Associates held a press conference the next morning. Rachel stood behind the podium in a crisp business suit, her service medals displayed proudly on her lapel. This case represents something larger than workplace harassment, she said. It's about the systematic devaluation of service members, minorities, and working-class Americans. Angela and Brad found themselves at the center of a national conversation about privilege, respect, and the hidden heroes among us. Their LinkedIn profiles were flooded with comments. Their professional networks evaporated overnight. Meridian Financial faced a federal investigation that uncovered systemic discrimination across multiple departments. The company paid out $2.3 million in settlements and was required to implement comprehensive diversity training and oversight. Angela lost not just her job, but her entire career trajectory. No marketing firm would touch her after her comments went viral. She eventually moved back in with her parents and took a job at a retail store, where she learned firsthand what it felt like to be judged by others. Brad's story was even worse. His family's financial services firm, built over 3 generations, lost major clients who didn't want to be associated with the discrimination scandal. The firm folded within 6 months. But the most devastating consequence was the personal reckoning they both faced. In quiet moments, they had to confront the fact that they'd tormented a genuine American hero, someone who'd sacrificed more for their freedom than they could ever comprehend. 1 year later, Rachel Thompson stood in the corner office of Morrison Klein and Associates, looking out at the city skyline. As the firm's newest partner specializing in employment discrimination and veterans' rights, she'd become one of the most sought-after attorneys in the state. Not. Her story had inspired legislation protecting service members from workplace discrimination. She'd testified before Congress, spoken at law schools, and become a symbol of hidden strength and quiet dignity. The scars on her arm were still there, but now they were visible signs of honor rather than shame. She wore short sleeves proudly, and the 173rd Airborne tattoo had become a symbol of her firm's commitment to defending the undervalued and overlooked. Angela had spent the year in therapy, trying to understand how she'd become someone capable of such cruelty. Working retail had taught her humility, but the damage to her reputation was permanent. She'd tried to reach out to Rachel several times, seeking forgiveness that she didn't deserve and might never receive. Brad's fall had been even more complete. The family business his grandfather had built was gone. His fiancée had left him. He'd filed for bankruptcy and was working as a junior bookkeeper for a small accounting firm, making less than Rachel had earned as a janitor. The symbolic meeting came at a coffee shop near the courthouse. Rachel was there with clients, preparing for a major discrimination case. Brad was there alone, having recognized her from across the room. He approached carefully. His entire demeanor changed from the arrogant executive he'd once been. "Miss Thompson," he said quietly, "I know I have no right to speak to you, but I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was wrong about everything." Rachel looked at him with the same steady gaze that had once faced down enemy combatants. "Apology noted, Mr. Chen. I hope you've learned something from this experience." "I have," he said. "I've learned that strength isn't about putting others down. It's about lifting them up, even when they don't deserve it." Rachel nodded once, the acknowledgement of one human being to another who'd finally learned what she'd always known. "Take care of yourself, Brad." Angela and Brad tried to destroy Rachel by mocking her scars and dismissing her worth, but instead, they destroyed themselves. Sometimes the people we underestimate hold the most courage and the greatest capacity for both justice and mercy. Rachel's story teaches us that true strength isn't about the absence of scars. It's about what we do with the wounds we carry. Every person we encounter has fought battles we know nothing about, earned victories we can't see, and carries wisdom we're too quick to dismiss. The janitor cleaning your office might be a decorated war hero. The server bringing your food might be earning a doctoral degree. The person you're tempted to look down on might be the very person who could change your life if only you had the wisdom to see them clearly. Rachel Thompson didn't just survive her tormentor's cruelty. She transformed it into a force for justice that protected countless others. Her scars told a story of sacrifice and service, but her response to discrimination wrote a new chapter about dignity, patience, and the power of quiet strength. If this story of hidden heroism and ultimate justice has touched your heart, remember that we all have the power to choose how we respond to the people around us. We can judge by appearances and assumptions, or we can use our humanity to recognize the warriors, scholars, and heroes walking among us in unexpected places. The next time you're tempted to dismiss someone based on how they look or what job they do, remember Rachel Thompson. Remember that the person you're looking at might just be someone extraordinary, disguised as someone ordinary, waiting for the world to see them clearly. Because in the end, we're all fighting battles others can't see. And we all deserve to be treated with the respect due to fellow human beings on this difficult, beautiful journey we share. Smash that like button if this story moved you.